My name is Ethan Cole, and I'm 31 years old. I'm not a man who believes in destiny, or at least I wasn't until her. This is the story I've never told anyone. I call it. She brushed her fingers on my cheek and said, "You feel warmer every time I touch you." The rain had been falling in sheets that morning, blurring the glass walls of the marketing firm where I'd been working for the past 5 years. Mondays were always brutal, but this one felt heavier. I'd spent the weekend arguing with my father over the phone. Again, he'd accused me of wasting my potential, of rotting in an office instead of building something real. His words echoing like a wound I couldn't close. I shook it off, focusing on the faint hum of the office lights and the familiar scent of burnt coffee. When she walked in, her name was Lila Hart, the new hire, the creative strategist from Toronto who, rumor had it, had turned down a cushy job in New York to work here, in our unremarkable London branch. She wasn't what I expected. She wasn't loud or overly polished or the kind of person who demanded attention. But when she moved, it was as if the world subtly adjusted to make space for her. Her dark hair fell in a slightly messy bun, and there was something arresting about her gaze. A calm that seemed to read everything and give nothing away. Our boss, Marcus, introduced her in the conference room during the weekly pitch meeting. "This is Lila," Marcus said, his tone as dry as ever. "She'll be leading the Anderson campaign with Ethan." I raised my head. "With me?" She caught my eyes, and for a brief moment, something sharp ran through me. Not lightning, but the quiet tremor before a storm. Later that day, we found ourselves alone in the brainstorming room, whiteboards covered in half-erased slogans and messy sketches. "So," I began, shuffling papers just to have something to do. "Why London? You could have gone anywhere." She smiled faintly, tapping a pen against the table. "Maybe I like the rain." "You're serious?" I asked, a little amused. Her eyes met mine, and there was no trace of humor. "Rain makes you notice things, like how people move when they're cold, or the sound of their breathing when they're waiting for the sky to clear." Something about the way she said it, measured, quiet, made me lean in without realizing it. Over the next few weeks, Lila and I became an odd kind of team. We stayed late, not because Marcus demanded it, but because neither of us seemed to want to leave. We'd work on taglines and color schemes, but somehow the conversations always wandered, to books, to childhood memories, to the parts of ourselves we didn't show anyone else. There was a softness in her that made me forget the sharp edges of my own life. My father's harsh words, the pressure from work, the loneliness that had crept into my apartment over the years. They all felt muted when I was around her. And yet, something about her kept me cautious. Lila was layered. Sometimes, mid-conversation, she would go still, like a thought had stolen her away. Sometimes she'd laugh at something I said, and it sounded genuine, only for a shadow to pass behind her eyes a heartbeat later. The moment that changed everything came on a Thursday night. The office was empty except for us. Rain lashed against the windows, thunder grumbled in the distance, and the power flickered once, then twice. I was sketching out a storyboard when she walked over, quietly, almost like she was afraid of the sound of her own footsteps. She stood close enough for me to smell the faint trace of her perfume. Jasmine, maybe, or something softer. "Ethan," she said, her voice low. I looked up, and for the first time, she seemed nervous. She hesitated, then reached out. Her fingers brushed my cheek, light as breath. "You feel warmer every time I touch you," she whispered. My chest tightened. It was such a strange thing to say, and yet, in that moment, it made perfect sense. Her hand lingered, then dropped. But something in me shifted. I should have kissed her then. Or maybe I shouldn't have. Maybe everything would have been different. But before I could speak, the office door slammed open. Marcus stood there, soaked from the rain, his face tight with something I couldn't read. Anger, maybe, or shock. "Cole," he said sharply. "In my office. Now." Lila stepped back, her expression unreadable. I followed Marcus, heart pounding. He shut the door behind me, and his voice dropped into something low and dangerous. "I don't know what you think you're doing," he said, his jaw clenched, But keep things professional with Lila. This project is too important for your distractions. His words burned. Distractions. I wanted to argue, to tell him it wasn't what he thought, but something in his tone told me this was bigger than a workplace policy speech. Something in his tone told me he knew more about Lila than I did. That night, I walked home through the rain, my mind a storm of its own. Why did Marcus sound almost protective? Why did Lila look at me the way she did? Like there were things she wanted to say but couldn't. And why, when I closed my eyes, did I still feel the ghost of her touch on my cheek? Warm, fragile, and terrifyingly real. The next morning, the office felt different. Not just to me, everyone seemed to sense it. There was tension in the air, the kind you can't see but feel on your skin like static. Marcus avoided looking at me during the morning briefing. Lila avoided looking at both of us. But her fingers had left a memory on my cheek the night before, and no amount of routine could erase that. Around noon, I caught Lila alone in the hallway. "What was that last night?" I asked quietly. She looked around, as if making sure no one could hear. Then she shook her head. "I shouldn't have." "You shouldn't have what?" Said that? Touched me? Her lips parted, but no words came out. Her eyes, though, those dark, searching eyes, told a different story. They weren't eyes of regret. They were eyes of someone holding back an entire ocean. "I don't know what you think Marcus told you," she finally said, "but don't let him make you doubt me." "Why would I doubt you?" I asked. Her answer was a whisper. "Because people have before." That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the scene in Marcus's office, his voice low and sharp. "Keep things professional with Lila." It sounded less like advice and more like a warning. And there was something else, something in the way he said her name, almost too familiar. A week passed, and the Anderson campaign kept us buried under mood boards, deadlines, and endless presentations. But between the chaos, moments slipped through. Lila would brush past me in the hallway, her hand grazing mine just long enough for my pulse to quicken. She'd linger by my desk after everyone left, staring at the half-lit city outside the windows as if searching for something only she could see. One night, we shared an elevator down to the parking garage. The metal doors closed, and for a moment, the hum of the machinery drowned out the world. "Do you trust me, Ethan?" she asked suddenly. It wasn't a flirtatious question. It was heavy. "Yes," I said, though it came out more like a question than an answer. She studied me for a beat, then nodded slightly, as if that answer wasn't for comfort, but calculation. The next day, Marcus called me into his office again. "Sit," he ordered, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. I sat. He leaned forward, his eyes locked on mine. "Stay away from her." It wasn't a warning this time. It was a command. "Why?" I demanded. He didn't blink. "Because you don't know what she's capable of." I stared at him, stunned. What the hell is that supposed to mean? He didn't elaborate. He just pushed a file across the desk. "This is her past work history," he said. "Read it if you want. But don't say I didn't warn you." I didn't open the file at first. I told myself I wasn't that kind of man. I wasn't going to dig through someone's past like it was dirt waiting to be found. But curiosity has sharp teeth. That night, alone in my apartment, I opened it. It was mostly normal marketing campaigns, job references, glowing reviews. But then I saw it. Her previous job at a New York agency had ended, abruptly. The note was vague. Termination due to personal conflicts and breach of confidentiality. And scribbled in the margin, in someone else's handwriting, "Don't trust her with secrets." I didn't know what to believe. The next day, Lila caught me staring at her across the conference room. "What?" she asked, almost playfully, but something in me cracked. "Why did you really leave New York?" I asked. The smile on her lips vanished like it had been cut away. Her eyes searched mine, and for the first time since I'd met her, she looked afraid. "Do you really want to know?" she asked. "Yes." She hesitated, then leaned in just enough for only me to hear. "I trusted someone I shouldn't have," she whispered, "and it almost ruined me." That night, I got a call from my father. "Ethan," he said, his voice as harsh as gravel. "Your brother's engagement party is next week. Don't embarrass the family by showing up alone again." I almost laughed. Almost. "I'm not bringing someone just to keep up appearances," I said. "Then don't come at all," he snapped and hung up. I sat there in the dark, the dial tone humming in my ear, thinking about how I'd spent my life bending under other people's expectations. My father, Marcus, and now maybe Lila. The rain came back that night, pounding against the glass. I lay awake, thinking about her words, about Marcus's warning, about that file with its cryptic note. And when I finally drifted into a restless sleep, I dreamt of her fingers on my cheek, warm and soft, and a voice whispering, "You don't know what she's capable of." The following week blurred into a strange, weightless fog. Days of forced professionalism, nights of unanswered questions. I tried to bury myself in work, but Lila's presence was everywhere. In the smell of jasmine that lingered in the meeting room, in the way she looked at me during presentations when no one else was watching. And then there was Marcus, the way his voice sharpened whenever her name came up, the way his hand gripped the conference table, white-knuckled, as if he was holding something back. It all came to a head the night of my brother's engagement party. I wasn't going to go, not after my father's ultimatum, but Lila surprised me. She came to my desk as everyone else was leaving, her coat draped over her arm, her hair loose for once, cascading down her shoulders like ink. "Are you going?" she asked simply. I shook my head. "No point. My father doesn't want me there unless I'm bringing someone." She tilted her head, studying me for a beat. Then she said, "What if you did?" And that's how, 2 hours later, we were standing at the entrance to my family's home in Surrey, her hand tucked lightly into the crook of my arm. The air was heavy with expensive wine and polite conversation. Crystal chandeliers threw shards of light across polished floors. My father saw us before anyone else. His brows shot up, but instead of his usual scorn, something like surprise flickered across his face. "Ethan," he said, his voice a notch softer than usual, "you brought company." Lila smiled, warm and unshakable. "It's lovely to meet you, Mr. Cole." For the next hour, she was flawless, graceful with my mother, charming with my brother and his fiancée. But beneath the surface, I could feel it. The tension coiled in her arm when she held mine, the way her eyes scanned the room like she was measuring exits. Later, as the party thinned, I found her on the balcony, staring out into the dark garden. The night air bit at our skin. The sound of clinking glasses drifted from inside. "Lila," I said softly, "what are you really running from?" She didn't turn to me. Instead, she whispered, "Do you believe people can change who they are?" The question caught me off guard. "I think people try to change. Whether they succeed, I don't know." Finally, she turned to face me. Her eyes were bright with something I couldn't name. Fear, hope, maybe both. "There's something I didn't tell you," she said. That's when Marcus appeared. I don't know how long he'd been standing there, but his presence was like a sudden shadow. "Ethan," he said tightly, "we need to talk. Alone." Lila stiffened beside me. "No," I said, surprising even myself. "If this is about her, she stays." His jaw tightened. "You don't understand, Ethan. She's..." "Enough," I snapped. The word rang out in the cold night air. What happened next didn't feel real. Marcus's voice dropped into something low and raw. "She worked for me in New York," he said. "Not just at the agency. We were involved." The words hung there like smoke. Lila's face didn't flinch, but I could feel the tension in her body. "She leaked client information," Marcus continued. "I covered for her. I lost contracts because of her. And when it all came apart, she disappeared." He took a step closer, his eyes locked on mine. "And now she's here, doing the same thing with you." The silence that followed was suffocating. Lila finally spoke, her voice calm, almost eerily so. "Yes, I made mistakes," she said. "I trusted the wrong people. I broke things I shouldn't have. But I didn't come here to ruin Ethan's life. Her eyes found mine then, steady and unblinking. I came here because, for the first time, I thought maybe I could start over. Maybe someone would see me and not my past. I didn't know what to say. My mind flashed with every moment we'd shared. Her hand on my cheek, her laughter in the late-night office, her whisper in the elevator. "Do you trust me, Ethan?" I thought of Marcus's warning, my father's constant disappointment, all the times I'd let someone else's voice drown out my own. And then I thought of her, the warmth, the fragility, the way she made me feel like maybe I wasn't just existing but living. I stepped toward her. She didn't move. I lifted my hand, brushing my fingers against her cheek, mirroring the moment that had started everything. "You feel warmer every time I touch you," I whispered back. Her breath caught, and for a second the world went still. Marcus turned away, muttering something under his breath, but I barely heard him. In that moment, it wasn't about him. It wasn't about my father. It wasn't about her past or even mine. It was about choice. Lila looked at me like she was seeing sunlight for the first time in years. "I don't deserve this," she whispered. "Maybe not," I said. "Maybe neither of us do, but it's ours anyway." We left the party quietly. The rain had started again, soft and steady, soaking our clothes as we walked to the car. She slipped her hand into mine, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was running from something. I felt like I was running toward it. Reflection. Looking back now, I realize something. We're all haunted by the things we've done, by the mistakes that chase us. But sometimes, if we're brave enough, we find someone who doesn't just see the ghosts. They see you. And if you're lucky, if you hold on tight enough, that kind of love doesn't just warm you. It saves you. Would you like me to write an epilogue? A short scene showing Ethan and Lila months or years later, reflecting on how their story unfolded? It's been 3 years since that night. The rain-soaked balcony, the confrontation, the choice that felt like stepping off a cliff. I'm sitting in a small kitchen now, sunlight spilling through the window, the smell of coffee curling through the air. Outside, the London rain taps gently on the glass, softer than I remember it ever being. Lila hums quietly as she stirs sugar into her tea. Her hair is shorter now, a little messier, a little freer. She catches me watching her and smiles. That same quiet smile that once made me feel like the ground wasn't as solid as I thought. We don't talk about Marcus anymore. We don't talk about the file, or the words don't trust her with secrets. Not because we're pretending it didn't happen, but because we've built something beyond it. Last night, while we were cleaning up after dinner, she brushed her fingers against my cheek again. Absent-minded, casual. But it still made me stop. And she still whispered, like it was a secret meant only for me. "You feel warmer every time I touch you." I used to think love was about finding someone perfect. Now I know it's about finding someone who's willing to sit with your imperfections and let you sit with theirs. The rain outside falls heavier, but inside this kitchen, there's warmth. And for the first time in my life, I don't wonder if it will last. I just believe it will.